As a highly skilled actor, Lin Ke traveled to the Great Wei Dynasty and became the son of the Minister of Rites. But he is a lowly prostitute. This world divides people into upper third class, middle sixth class, and lower ninth class. However, prostitutes belong to the lower ninth class and cannot participate in the imperial examination. What nationality is a mother? What nationality is a child? What? 3 statues, 6 paths, and 9 streams. 3, 6, 9, etc. We are born free, who dares to be above us? A lowly storyteller, write. I will teach you how to write, my son. In law, sword goes, and, fighting through the sky, and see if those noble texts love to read. A lowly prostitute, write. I'll teach you ballet, stunning swan dance, and peacock dance, and see if those esteemed individuals want to buy tickets. A lowly merchant, write. Have you ever heard of, on capital, on national wealth, management, marketing, there are also despicable thieves. Let me tell you about those who rob the rich to help the poor, and those who steal are also righteous and chivalrous. There's also a lowly matchmaker. Come on, let's create a platform, let's call it Lonely. So, under the promotion of Lin Ke, the Great Wei Dynasty launched a magnificent transformation. Countless people eagerly await, countless people remain steadfast, and countless people pledge to follow to the death. Just because Lin Ke is their common life mentor, life innovator, and the one who illuminates himself to break through the darkness for the Great Wei Dynasty. The Great Wei Dynasty was moved by Lin Ke, changed by Lin Ke, and prospered by Lin Ke. Keywords of the novel. When I am not a Confucian sage, I will initiate a change without a pop-up window. When I am not a Confucian sage, I will initiate a change. Download the complete text. When I am not a Confucian sage, I will initiate a change. The latest chapters are available for reading. Chapter 1. The Low People of the Great Wei Dynasty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Low People of the Great Wei Dynasty. When Lin Ke first came over, he naturally thought it was Wei from history. After all, whether it's in books or among people, they are similar to what he watches in some TV dramas. They are all known as young masters and young ladies. Their interactions are all great scholars and white scholars, and their running script is all just and air. The houses we live in are surrounded by mountains, rivers, and gardens, with every blade of grass and every tree. They are adorned with blue tiles and red pavilions, with high platforms and thick pavilions, all full of ancient charm and beauty. The people who come and go at home, such as feather fans, silk scarves, embroidered jackets, and fragrant clothes, are either handsome, or beautiful and beautiful. As a father, he was a great Confucian scholar of the current dynasty, the Minister of Rites, and a third-rank official. He was in charge of the world's etiquette, sacrifices, and tribute ceremonies, with every move and action surpassing 10,000 people and below 7, 8, and 9 people. Moreover, the Lin family comes from a wealthy family, with the trust of your superiors, brotherhood, and harmonious marital relationships. These are all very good, can be said to be one of the templates that travelers dream of. The only downside is one thing. No, 2 points. One reason is that he was born out of wedlock and his birth mother was a brothel woman. Due to various reasons, he had already passed away due to illness and suffered a lot before passing away. Although Mr. Lin has about 10 or 20 sons and daughters, only his mother is a lowly person, and she is the lowest of the 9 streams among the lowly. The great Confucian scholar of that dynasty wrote miscellaneous treatise on market system, which said, those who are of the lower 9 classes are storytellers, government officials, servants, matchmakers, lenients, thieves, and prostitutes. Prostitutes are the lowest class, and registered residence registration is also the lowest. The descendants of those who are inferior to mercy and theft cannot be registered as civilians. The second downside is that his father was a great scholar of the dynasty. And he is the Minister of Rites. And he is a great Confucian scholar who demands the utmost strictness of etiquette. And he is a great scholar who highly values the system of legitimate eldest sons. And his father hates him very much. Or it can't be said to be annoying, it can only be said to be extremely disgusted, annoyed at the sight of it, eager to eat its meat raw, only seeking to be able to annihilate relatives with righteousness, and clean up the door. Because in Mr. Lin's view, his birth was completely a mistake, or rather a mistake, or a fallacy. The meaning is that he shouldn't have been born. Of course, these are nothing, at least these two annoying points do not affect Lin Ke's identity as the son of the Minister of Rites. After all, the laws of the Great Wei Dynasty were extremely strict, and they placed great emphasis on loyalty and filial piety. They easily destroyed their own bloodline, which was no different from rebelling against their own ancestral halls and betraying their own surnames. Lord Lin highly values etiquette, even if his son is a prostitute, it is impossible to clean up the door. Even if Lord Lin only needs a light drink to shake the demon outside the domain, he cannot take action against his own children. But the problem lies here. The Great Wei Dynasty, also known as the Great Wei Holy Dynasty. Emperor Wei, also known as the Holy Emperor of the World. The 4 seas and 4 regions, heaven and earth, mountains, rivers, lakes, and peaks, all crawl under the rule of the Holy Emperor. 6 ethnic groups and 6 kingdoms, 8 paths and 13 sects, the 3 schools of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, demons, monsters, ghosts, and gods, all fear the words and actions of the Holy Emperor. The Holy Emperor is greatly pleased, and heaven and earth prosper together. When the Holy Emperor is angry, all things disappear. Not to mention the Holy Emperor, appointing one of the 3 provinces and 12 ministries can make the vast expanse of land rich and fertile, and the people's hardship can lead to a peaceful and prosperous life. The 3 provinces and 12 ministries coming together can withstand the wrath of the Holy Emperor. Anyway, in this world, Lin Ke lived nervously for a few days before fully adapting to the ancient life of another world. As for the knowledge he learned from his predecessor Lin Ke's memory, he will not fully believe it. The Emperor. Naturally, stick whatever is powerful to your face. It is impossible to declare to the world that there are only strong countries outside, and that one's own country is not the enemy of others. Of course, he believed in that kind of divine and ghostly art. Because in the memory of his predecessor, his mother was weak after giving birth to him, and was then invaded by the cold demon. Finally, he was killed by the demon with the word "un" by Lord Lin. The kind of cold demon that can freeze mountains and rivers and make the sky snow has left an indelible impression in the memories of its predecessor. For his own father, his predecessor was both fearful and fearful. At the age of 15, the son fears his father, the father hates his son, the mother dies early, the brothers and friends are far away, and the slaves bully the lowly. What is the reason? Lin Ke has been exploring for the past decade or so. Then I think there are only 2 reasons, one is his mother, the other is his registered residence. His identity is too lowly. Mr. Lin had 1 left wife and 1 right wife, and 16 concubines. The family was divided into 2 prefectures, left and right, and Ping. The 2 left and right wives entered the left prefecture, and the 16 little concubines entered the right prefecture. The rest of the servants and maids were all under the jurisdiction of Ping Prefecture and were managed by 1 steward. And he, along with his mother, entered Pingfu. The person in charge of the family dislikes it, and of course, the 2 wives cannot like it, and their descendants will not treat him as their younger brother. A third of indifference above can be exchanged for a fifth of contempt in the middle, as well as a very arrogant one below. So, the servants at home certainly didn't treat Lin Ke's mother and son well. And just a few days ago, the bones of his mother, who had died of depression, could only be buried behind their small courtyard. Their courtyard was not originally a wooden fire room, but later they moved to a wooden fire room because a brother's horse wanted to live in a different place. A wooden fire room is a place where wood used for burning is stored. His mother's attire tomb is located behind the wooden fire room. Before, he used to watch the servants of the wooden fire room and his son chopping wood together every day, and the same happened after his death. Perhaps his predecessor was ultimately angered to death in the wooden fire room due to the mixed grief and anger caused by his mother's death. Young Master Lin Ke, are you still reading while holding a book? Come and chop the wood. While Lin Ke was still pondering, he heard a servant come over and call out to him. At this moment, Lin Ke was sitting in front of the wooden fire room, holding a book with waste paper as its cover. Shangshu. Wangji. Lin Ke has a clear and beautiful appearance, with the 3 white eyes of Mr. Lin inherited between his eyebrows and eyes. He looks cold and ruthless, but when he smiles, he inherits the tenderness of his mother's peach blossom eyes. However, he was wearing a blue shirt that had been washed multiple times and had a slightly yellowish color, as well as tattered shoes, making him look more like those underprivileged children. Chopping wood. Lin Ke didn't refuse either. He stood up and placed the book in his hand well on the chair, then picked up the knife on the side and walked over. His food, clothing, and expenses should theoretically be distributed by the household steward, and as the son of the Lin family, he has gained quite a bit. But under the management of the Pingfu steward, his food, clothing, and expenses have also become something he earns himself. His former mother relied on washing clothes to earn money to support him. After the age of 6, he began to chop wood and fire to support his family. The steward dare not and cannot drive away their mother and son, but there is still the power to let them work to support themselves. After all, the people of the entire Pingfu are all managers. They live in the Lin mansion like 2 servants, without the appearance of a wife or a young master. Chai, you and Mei Shu are the only ones left to accompany me every day. Lin Ke picked up an 18-centimeter long piece of wood, gently stroked the body of the firewood, and sighed. Wood fire is firewood. Pop. 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 He sat in front of the firewood room door and began to fiercely, forcefully, and quickly chop the firewood body with his wooden knife. Chaimu let out a sound of wood swallowing under Lin Ke's strong chopping, and then burst into several neat sections. And the people outside were too lazy to come in and take a look when they heard the sound of his chopping wood, so they left straight away. The only sound left in the firewood yard, along with the cracking sound of the firewood, was rhythmic and rhythmic, like a wave, wave after wave. At this moment, Lin Ke's eyes were fixed on Chai's body, and beads of sweat were dripping down. Like a chestnut exploding in the fire, and like 100 meters of ice about to shatter. Today, Lin Ke is already 16. The new book sets sail. This is a story of a scholar, a story of a gentleman. Like previous books, Xiao Bai will definitely work hard and make every effort to shape a good story. In addition, this lord is very scientific, is not yet complete, but fortunately, Xiao Bai is currently working full-time as a writer, so there is time for both. Hope everyone can support us. Asterisk, people, asterisk, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Way of a Gentleman. Choosing and Choosing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Way of a Gentleman. Choosing and choosing 2 hours of chopping firewood were already commonplace for Lin Ke. Even though Lin Ke is not very familiar, Lin Ke is very familiar, so this body is also very familiar. His body has been taught martial arts techniques since childhood, and with years of experience in chopping firewood, he is already familiar with the power and methods of chopping firewood, which can be done without the need for eyes. Practice makes perfect. Lin Ke thinks that since Lin Ke has left such a good foundation, he can't waste it, can he? Unfortunately, despite having good health, Lin Ke did not gain much knowledge from him. Because Lin Ke was born into such a wealthy family, but could not receive a complete and good education. At the age of 10, his family revoked his right to study due to the end of his Enlightenment education. The Enlightenment teaching of the family includes ritual, music, archery, and imperial books. Mr. Lin follows the ritual system and attaches great importance to all aspects. However, once you fail the assessment at the age of 10, you are not eligible to continue receiving Confucian and Taoist education, but to receive other education besides Confucianism and Taoism. For example, Buddhism, Taoism, martial arts, military arts, and so on. Lin Ke naturally did not pass the assessment, and even his predecessor was not assessed at all. Instead, he was directly notified to cancel his educational qualification. As for the reason. Sorry, in the Lin mansion courtyard, Lord Lin is the cause of everything. His mother's body also completely collapsed due to that incident, and after suffering for several years, she eventually left. And Lin Ke. Before Lin Ke came, his idea was to study Wei Li well, thoroughly study the only work that collected the culmination of Wei Li, Wang Ji, and one day gain the attention of Mr. Lin. Unfortunately, looking at the Wang Ji in his hand, Lin Ke was quite saddened. After chopping the firewood, the sky is getting dark and I can't read anymore. Lin Ke turned to look at the plum tree in the corner of the Chaiyuan wall, picked up his firewood knife again, and chopped the wood fire. If you're bored, just chop wood and fire. At the same time, my mind is also carefully contemplating the future. What will we do in the future? What is he going to do in such a seemingly stable but actually dangerous world? What can he do? The answer is actually quite simple. Reading. The Awakening Words in the Zhongjing book states: the universe is now inhabited by people, and all things are inferior, except for reading. Reading can make people aware, rational, and virtuous, as well as the vastness of heaven and earth and the vastness of space and time. In books, there is beauty like jade, and in books, there is a golden house. Reading can lead to becoming an official, realizing one's aspirations and ideals, as well as practicing one's own ideas and beliefs. Moreover, there is a deep-rooted class division in this world, dividing society into 3, 6, and 9 classes. For example, reading books. What books are you reading? The Book of Sages. Who wrote the Book of Sages? Ru. Confucianism carries the word of heaven and earth, and every word punishes the enemy. The Taoist magic is mysterious and extraordinary, moving mountains and overturning the sea. The Buddhist teachings of Shijia are boundless and provide universal assistance to all beings. Top 3, it all sounds wonderful. But among them, Confucianism is the first. Class avenue among the top 3, Taoism is the second rate, and the Shijia only sends the third rate. I don't know exactly how to measure it, but ultimately these 3 schools dominate the world, while Confucianism and Taoism also dominate the other 2. Of course, there may be a royal family above them, also known as the official family, the heavenly family, or the powerful family. So, unless one is directly reincarnated into a royal family, the best way to reach the summit is to study and become a scholar. If you don't read books of sages, you can also read Taoist scriptures and Buddhist scriptures, but invisibly you are one level lower than others. Of course, there is also a way out beyond reading. What should I do if I don't read? That can be done much more. What are the top 3 and bottom 3? Medium to 6th rate. First-rate prime ministers, second-rate craftsmen, third-rate martial artists, fourth-rate merchants, fifth-rate officials, and sixth-rate soldiers, while the rest of the various families are miscellaneous. Shangshu, craftsmen, warriors, merchants, doctors, soldiers, among others, are all called Zajia. The registered residence of these 6 professions is slightly inferior to the upper 3rd class, but they also have high social status. And the miscellaneous schools are slightly lower than the middle 6th class and slightly higher than the lower 9th class. But then again, I am a lowly member of the lower class. How can I participate in the imperial examination? Lin Ke carefully pondered on the solution. Those from the bottom 9 are not allowed to participate in the imperial examination. He is a lowly member of the lower class, so it is not possible for him to directly participate in the scientific examination. he must first withdraw from the examination. The descendants of prostitutes had a lower social status in the Great Wei Dynasty than thieves, robbers, and scammers. It is something despised by thousands of people, but it is also something loved and played with by thousands of people. Who doesn't like beautiful women? Even the grand Confucian scholar and Minister of Rites, Lord Lin, did not have a concubine. But no matter how much you like it, whether it's Confucianism or Taoism, even Buddhism is the same. Playing with women is still the same, but it does not recognize the status of women. Sometimes Lin Ke is thinking, how about he create 2 more homes outside of the 3rd, 6th, and 9th class? For example, women's authoritarians, for example, commoners, for example, scientists. To overthrow the system of this world. However, the physics, chemistry, biology, culture, history, geography, and politics of this world all seem different from their past lives. If Lin Ke comes up with something that subverts imperial power, it is possible that in the morning, he just stood up and announced the boycott of feudal superstition. In the afternoon, he was slapped by Lord Lin and immediately went to the funeral. Then, in the evening, he directly invited the 12 departments of the 3 provinces to his home for a banquet. Thinking of this, Lin Ke couldn't help but shake his head and smile slightly, wiping his forehead that was slightly sweating from chopping firewood, and then continuing to concentrate on chopping firewood. It's no use thinking too much now, the most crucial thing is to leave the country. I don't know what the hatred between Lord Lin and his mother and son, Lin Ke, is. Otherwise, as the descendants of Lord Lin, no matter how much they don't like it, they should have a 6th-rate registered residence. Lin Ke never knew why he was not loved by that Mr. Lin until his death, and even this was not a matter of liking or not liking, it was simply hatred and hostility. However, at this moment, Lin Ke looked at the plum tree not far away and couldn't help but smile again. The sword edge is sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. At the very least, Lin Ke has left him with a very good body. After so much honing, perhaps he can go out and sell some art in the future. Pop. 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 Lin Ke chopped the firewood, sometimes smiling, sometimes sighing, and the firewood piled higher and higher beside him. And just as he was chopping down a certain firewood, a crisp sound suddenly rang in his mind. Ding! Chop firewood 108,000 times, start the path of a gentleman. The way of a gentleman is to make choices. After making thousands of choices, one's destiny will come true. The destiny of a gentleman gathers vastness. The current gentleman is suffering from hardships and wind, and there is an unknown presence casting their gaze at the Lin mansion. Please make a decision. Option 1, putting down the firewood knife, lazy and indifferent to the firewood gate, observing the clouds rolling in the natural way, then laughing and reciting a poem. Take. An unknown person who follows and escapes into a Taoist sect, becoming a Taoist. Shed. Abandon the other 2 statues of the 6 paths and 9 flows. Option 2, chop the firewood 10 times, with no difference in size, concentrate a little, and reach the peak to perfection. Take. Unknown existence attention, introduce trapped camp, for military Tianjiao. Shed. Abandon all those related to literature among the 3 statues, 6 paths, and 9 streams. Decision 3. After completing the task of chopping firewood, he stood still in front of the plum tree, smiled, patted his hands, sang 14 words of praise, and then sighed. Note. 14 characters do not include punctuation. Take. Unknown existence attention, apprentice to a great scholar, be a gentleman, 3 venerable figures, 6 paths, and 9 streams can all be achieved. Shed. A lowly household. Roll around and beg for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Daoyun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Daoyun is this. System. Lin Ke squinted his eyes as he looked at these 3 choices. Chopping firewood 108,000 times opened this system called, the Way of the Gentleman's Choice, and Lin Ke calculated the number of times he chops firewood every day and the number of days he arrives here. He has been here for over 10 days now. Chopping firewood 108,000 times. If you chop once per second, 1 hour is 36,000 times, 10 hours a day is 36,000 times, and 10 days is 36,000 times. However, Lin Ke's predecessor was accustomed to chopping wood, and after Lin Ke fully adapted to this body, he could almost chop 2 or 3 pieces of wood in 1 second. That's to the extent that we can carve out remnants. When there's nothing to do, he can even chop for 12, 3, or 4 hours a day. If you need to go to Dongshan and Shishan to chop plum trees for firewood, it will take 1 or 2 days less. After a rough calculation, it seems that this system was brought by him, not possessed by Lin Ke himself. Choose between 1, 2, 3. Looking at these 3 lines of characters and the 14 characters do not contain punctuation marks in the brackets in the system, Lin Ke did not complain much, but thought carefully. Choice. Decision-making. The meaning conveyed by this system is actually very clear. Make multiple choice questions, each choice represents a certain outcome. The first choice means that he will eventually enter the door. The 3 schools of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism are all of the top 3, and whether they have Confucian, Taoist, or Buddhist scriptures, they are all at the top of society. The second option is slightly weaker. The military prowess of the military is naturally inferior to the first type of Taoist Dao. Dao Zi. It doesn't sound like much at first glance, but if we convert it to an imperial court, the Daoist way is equivalent to the crown prince of a dynasty. If there is no third option, the best choice is undoubtedly to choose one, to become a Taoist and embark on the path of cultivating immortality. However, there is a third option here. What is the third choice? Ru. Who is the most prominent among the top 3, middle 6, and bottom 9 in the world? 3 statues, 6 paths, and 9 streams. Although it may seem like 3 statues stand tall, in reality, 1 family dominates. Not to mention that among these 3 choices, only the third one does not affect Lin Ke's future foray into the remaining streams. So, how do you choose between these 3 choices? The answer is very simple. Thinking of this, Lin Ke's eyes flickered, and he had already made a decision in his heart. I saw him tighten his firewood knife and pick up a thick stick from the side again. As soon as Lin Ke picked up the firewood and touched it, the center of gravity, weak points, and other positions of the firewood appeared in his mind. Why is that so? Without him, only hands are familiar. In ancient times, there was an oil seller who took a gourd and placed it on the ground. He covered his mouth with money and slowly used a ladle to drink oil and drain it, entering through the money hole without getting wet. It is said that in ancient times, there was an oil seller who placed a gourd on the ground, covered the gourd mouth with a copper coin, and slowly scooped oil into the gourd with an oil spoon. The oil was injected through the money hole, but the money was not wet. This is hand-cooked. 10 years of chopping firewood, now we need to use it. Concentrate on it and achieve the pinnacle. Pop. With a flick of the firewood knife, the weak spot of the firewood was perfectly centered, and suddenly, the firewood was split, instantly transforming into 2 identical pieces of firewood. Then, he quickly picked up the next stick of wood and almost without thinking, swung his knife and swung it, hitting the bull's eye with 1 strike. Then comes the next one, pop. 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 In an unknown pavilion, 2 middle-aged people are playing chess. Pop. The sound of falling stones occasionally rang out, black and white crisscrossed the chessboard, and 2 big dragons were desperately fighting and fighting. And these 2 players also have their own characteristics. One of them was dressed in a black outfit, with eyes as wide as copper bells and a fierce expression on his face. He sat on a chair with a golden sword, not looking like he was playing chess, but rather like a street laborer fighting for wine or arguing. The sitting posture and demeanor of the middle-aged man opposite him are completely different. Her temples were graying white, and she was wearing a white long robe. She sat upright, with a jade pendant hanging from her waist. Her attire was appropriate, and her expression was solemn. Sitting there, she exuded a profound aura, making her look like a literati and refined scholar. The two remained silent, their eyes fixed on the chessboard as if they were fully immersed in the game. Suddenly, the middle-aged man in black, who had just lifted his white shirt, was stunned for a moment. His eyes were blank for a moment, and after his gaze returned, he suddenly spoke up, "Old man, anyone can do it." The middle-aged man in the white shirt across from him remained motionless while he was stunned. After he regained his senses and asked a question, he slowly replied, "No women, everything else is fine." "Okay, okay." The man in the black outfit rubbed his hands happily and said, "I've chosen it. That's it. That's it. That's all for today. Let's just be a tie, haha, haha." As he spoke, the rough and large hand of the black man in a strong suit reached out and vigorously touched the chessboard, making a piece as if it were a matchup. The chessboard suddenly became chaotic. "It's okay, just call in after finishing." Unexpectedly, the man in white across from him waved his hand. An invisible force emerged, and the previously disrupted chessboard suddenly returned to its original state. Then the man in white said, "Come on, continue." "Hey! Are you sick, old man?" The black man in a strong suit stared like a copper bell. "It's just a game of chess, how important is our business?" "Then give up," the man in white glanced at him lightly. The man in black suddenly sat down and cursed, but when he got into his seat, he suddenly froze and instinctively looked at the man in white. This time, the man in white also hesitated for a moment, then exchanged a glance with the man in black. "All right, I did make a choice this time, The man in black laughed heartily, I didn't expect it. The man in white frowned and his mind detached from the chessboard. When he frowned, his grayish temples became calm and the surrounding space twisted to varying degrees, causing the air to tremble slightly. But when the man in black saw the man in white frown, he looked happy and said, "What's up?" So I called him over. The man in the white shirt remained silent, only nodding slightly. The man in black was overjoyed at the sight and said, "I think I'm going to win this bet." "Ha, ha." The man in white looked at the man in black calmly and whispered, "The son of a lowly prostitute. Are you here again?" The man in black glared and raised his eyebrows, his blood-evil energy gradually rising around his body, rolling in the air, presenting the appearance of 1,000 soldiers and horses. The man in the white shirt calmly picked up the teacup in his hand and took a gentle sip, without much reaction, as if the bloody aura was just blowing on his face. The two remained silent, and there was only silence inside the pavilion. However, at this moment, the two of them seemed to see or perceive something, and suddenly their faces met once. Impossible. Such a charm. Good poetry. Good poetry. Ha. On the other side, Lin Ke finished chopping firewood but did not stop. He walked to the door with a leisurely and lazy pace, gently stretching his waist and making an "ah" sound, appearing extremely comfortable. Then he slowly sat down against the door, with his hands resting on his head, crossed his legs, focused his gaze on the horizon, and slowly let go of his gaze. Looking at the sunny sky and the rolling clouds, squinting slightly, a lazy smile appeared on his face. Then he chuckled lightly and spoke to himself in an ethereal yet lazy voice. Who had the foresight to dream? In my lifetime. I know it. What are the first, second, and third choices? Only children can make single choices, and the world of adults only has multiple choices. Push the book friend is a cute girl, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Shangshu of the current dynasty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Shangshu of the current dynasty. The poem I just read comes from a 5-character quatrain created by Luo Guanzhong for Zhuge Liang. The full text is: Who was the first to dream? I have always known myself. Spring in the thatched cottage sleeps well, and the sun outside the window is delayed. There are 3 interpretations and translations for this poem. One is that life is like a dream, who can see everything in the dream clearly. But I am able to have a clear understanding of the laws of everything in the world. In the thatched cottage, the spring atmosphere is strong. On this afternoon nap, after sleeping for a few hours, when I woke up, the sun outside the window was already westward, and the sunset was heavy, almost reaching dusk. This is one explanation. Another explanation is who is the most conscious and wise person. I have a clear idea in my mind. The third one is that I am the most wise and wise minister in the world, and the wise lord I wait for every day is delayed in the future. Although there are many explanations for this poem, most likely these 3 explanations are more widely accepted. Why did Luo Guanzhong write like this? What is called, who had the foresight in a big dream? Why did Lin Ke recite these 2 lines of poetry, instead of reciting things like, looking up at the bright moon, or, the day after the mountain? Because this poem contains extremely high Taoist rhyme. The rhyme of the way. The great dreams and great awakenings in poetry are a Taoist perspective on life. In Zhuangzi's Qi Wu Luan, it is said: Feng Qi has a dream, but he does not know his dream. In his dream, he occupies his dream, and after realizing it, he knows his dream, and after realizing it, he knows his great dream. The original meaning is to say that death is a great enlightenment, and then life is a great dream. So, Lin Ke chose this poem. Since it is possible to become a Taoist, then this kind of poetry with Taoist rhyme must be more easily favored, right? After reciting this poem, Lin Ke slowly turned his gaze to the plum tree in the courtyard. This plum blossom tree, planted by Lin Ke's mother herself, is about 2 meters long, like a resolute young girl standing proudly. An inch of een is like a year old, and the stars and frost are fleeting. She has been here all this time. Under the tree, there is the mother's bones, and above the soil, there is a small tombstone without words. This is the ultimate destination of Lin Ke's mother. Lin Ke looked at the plum blossom tree with a look of love and regret in his eyes, then slowly stood up and walked step by step. As an actor, how do you perform to get the most out of it? In addition to expressions such as gaze, movement, demeanor, and language, the most important thing is the sense of immersion. Lin Ke must be brought into the role of Lin Ke in order to have stronger emotions. As he approached Plum Blossom, his body slowly stood tall and straight, like a hidden sword with a sharp edge that had been slowly unsheathed for many years, exuding a sense of firmness and sharpness. The blue shirt, which had been washed multiple times and had a slightly pale color, could not stop Lin Ke's dusty and sword-like aura. Take a few steps over, stand in front of the plum tree, reach out and pull the newly opened plum blossom in front of you towards the tip of your nose. His eyes were slightly furrowed, he leaned down to sniff lightly, and the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, as if he was intoxicated by the fragrance of flowers. Then he casually released the plum blossom he was holding in his hand, watching it slowly drift down after shaking, and remained silent. He stood up straight with one hand holding the back, as if he were also a plum tree standing in the cold winter snow, with its own character. Then he chuckled lightly, and a determined expression appeared on his face. The sword edge is sharpened from the grinding, the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. His gaze was unusually firm. After reciting, he raised his arm and caressed his palm, smiling and muttering to himself, "Mother, I am definitely like you, becoming the proud plum of the cold snow." But in an instant, he let out a heavy sigh, as if he wanted to spit out the humiliation and unwillingness of these years with this sigh. She sighed and shook her head. And at that moment, a sound came out of Lin Ke's mind. Ding! The decision has been made. Just as Lin Ke was waiting for the next sentence from that voice, he suddenly felt a flower in front of him. When Lin Ke regained his senses, he found himself no longer in the chopping yard, but in a room. He instantly became tense all over, showing a slightly nervous feeling. I saw a mahogany table in front of me, with two people sitting face to face. There was a chessboard on the table, with many pieces placed in black and white. On both sides of the chessboard are two men, one is a middle-aged man in black and the other is a middle-aged man in white. At this moment, the middle-aged man dressed in black looked at him with great interest and asked, "What's your name?" "Young generation Lin Ke, I have met senior." Although he suddenly appeared here, Lin Ke did not panic, but continued his acting talent. He clasped his hands together and bowed to the middle-aged man in black and then turned around to bow to the man in white across from him, saying, "I've seen you, senior. No matter what dynasty it is, etiquette must be in place." Because when Lin Ke was in that world, he came from a high-performing arts background and had participated in too many costume dramas, he naturally had a deep understanding of the strictness of ancient etiquette. In terms of coordination, it comes from Lin Ke's memory, and his behavior in etiquette is naturally average, making it impossible for these two middle-aged people to find faults. After bowing, Lin Ke stood up and looked at their faces. This middle-aged man in black clothes and strong attire had a fierce face in Lin Ke's eyes, as if he could easily grab someone's collar and reason with his fists when talking to them at any time. His sitting posture is carefree, like an uncle who can sit on the ground with him at any time and enjoy the family routine. On the other side, the middle-aged man in white clothes was very quiet, sitting there with a calm and confident demeanor. Lin Ke felt that the man in white was difficult to get along with, and at the same time, there was a sense of familiarity. He felt very familiar and couldn't remember where he had seen him for a moment. It's hard to imagine that two people with vastly different personalities can sit together and play chess quietly. While Lin Ke was thinking at a high speed, he saw a middle-aged man in black smile and say, "He, Lin Shangshu's son." "Yes, senior." Lin Ke nodded lightly, with a tone that was neither humble nor overbearing. "Oh, oh." The middle-aged man in black clothes pointed to the man in white across from him and said, "Don't you know who he is? Is it from the Lin family?" Lin Ke's heart trembled as he couldn't help but carefully scrutinize the middle-aged man in white. This middle-aged man in white should be a scholar, with grayish hair and a meticulous and strict expression on his face. Just between his eyebrows and eyes, Lin Ke became more and more familiar, more and more familiar immediately. He thought of someone. "Is it?" It's okay if you don't recognize it." The middle-aged man in black laughed heartily, winking at the man in white before looking at Lin Ke again. "Not to mention that. Lin Ke, I need your help with something. If you help me, I can promise you any conditions. Of course, I need to do what I can and not violate my original intention. Any conditions are acceptable." The middle-aged man in black wore a smile on his face. "Help. Any conditions?" Lin Ke asked in confusion after pretending to consider the words. Young Lin Ke knows that his talent and knowledge are shallow, and he doesn't know how he could have such an honor. "If I can help the senior, I will do my best to the best of my ability. Simply put, it means I think my abilities are average. But if you think I can, then I'll go. Of course, you also have to give me the reward." The middle-aged man in black immediately smiled and said, Okay. Haha. You're not just inexperienced. Bao Jianfeng has honed his skills to say such things, not everyone can say them. The laughter stopped, and he continued to casually point to the middle-aged man in white across from him. "I made a bet with this person, which is to choose one person each and give you 1 year. How much you can learn depends on yourself. Compared to 3 games in 3 months, 6 months, and at the end of the year, 2 wins in 3 games. 3 rounds of competition, 2 wins in 3 sets. 1 year." Lin Ke's heart was pounding. If I remember correctly, 1 year later will be his last opportunity to participate in the imperial examination for children, because he will be an adult next year. We must seize this opportunity. Divorce and participate in the child test. As Lin Ke was thinking, the man in white glanced at him without a trace, with a hint of a complex fan-shaped image flashing in his eyes. This includes various emotions such as disgust, nausea, regret, and so on. But due to its excellent nurturing skills, it was not noticed by Lin Ke or seen by middle-aged people in black. How about joining? At this moment, the middle-aged man in black patted his mouth, sat back in his seat, and looked at Lin Ke with a smile on his face. Join. Lin Ke did not hesitate, his tone was resolute. Of course, I understand the principle that diligence can make up for clumsiness and that clumsy birds fly first. Although I am inexperienced, I should do my best. Okay. The man in black smiled at Lin Ke's words and said happily, as for being inexperienced. It's okay, your opponent is just a Confucian scholar. Continuing on, he added, I won't let you lose, and I believe in my judgment of people. Confucian scholars. Lin Ke's face was a bit stiff, but there wasn't much timidity either, but he still bowed and said, I'm just an ordinary person. Confucian scholars. What is a Confucian scholar? That is someone who has already embarked on the path of Confucianism and Taoism. The Confucian habitat is equivalent to the Dao Tong realm, equivalent to the Shami realm. It is the beginning of the path of cultivation. At the very least, it is necessary to pass the Tongxing test in order to have the opportunity to glimpse the path of Confucianism and Taoism, and then step into this realm. By contrast, Lin Ke is just an ordinary teenager. Besides being handsome, it's simply useless. Don't be afraid, the things you're comparing don't involve those things. The middle-aged man in black smiled and said, anyway, just agree. I didn't expect to find a treasure. As he spoke, the middle-aged man in black laughed a few more times and said, all right, it's up to the old man to choose who. Just wait beside him and see which talent the old man will choose from my family. Yes. Lin Ke nodded at the words. Even though he knew his opponent was a Confucian scholar, he had no other thoughts. The best opportunity at the moment is to leave the country. We must catch it. Lin Ke's eyes were calm, his face was natural, and his mind was filled with thoughts about the system and the decision he had made earlier. I bet it right. When Lin Ke saw those 3 choices, he quickly weighed the pros and cons in his mind and conducted an analysis. Whether it's choice 1 or 2 or 3, they all mention a subject, which is, unknown strong person. He didn't know if this strong person was a Confucian, Taoist or military strongman, or if it was all possible. Anyway, it was a choice corresponding to the 3 choices. He cannot rely on luck to make a decision when he is unsure, which is not in line with his steady personality. He is already the second in life, but he doesn't want to hand over his fate to the so-called fate. He wants to firmly grasp these in his own hands. So, at that time, he quickly made various deductions in his heart. Unknown powerhouse. Why are there unknown powerhouses? You should know that Lin Ke is in the Lin Mansion. Lin Mansion, where is Lin Mansion? The head of the Lin family was the Minister of Rites of the current dynasty, and both in terms of cultivation and power, he was one of the most prominent figures in contemporary times. Do ordinary people in this world dare to cast their gaze at the Lin Mansion at will? The Ministry of Personnel, the Ministry of Revenue, the Ministry of Rites, the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Xing, and the Ministry of Works are the same as in previous lives. Besides that, there are also 6 departments. Tofu Department, Demon Department, Spirit and Monster Department, God and Ghost Department, 6 Clan Department, and 100 Family Department. The entire Tao and Buddha add up to form a department, while someone else's Department of Rites is directly a department. Can this be compared to So, the most likely unknown powerhouses that Lin Ke is most likely to come into contact with now are the ministers of several other departments. Plus the appearance of that middle-aged man in white. A middle-aged man in a white shirt is very likely to be Lin Ke's father. And this middle-aged man in black must be one of the 12 ministers of work, household, and agriculture. Thinking of this, Lin Ke's gaze towards the middle-aged man in white shirt showed a hint of surprise. But there is also some happiness. Previously, when he looked at those three options, he guessed that the unknown presence's gaze came from the same person. As a Shangshu, one must know many people, so the results of decision-making lead to different paths. And Lin Ke took a trick. I made a multi-topic selection, and all three paths are occupied. He saw that the first choice was very simple. To put down the firewood knife, look at the sky and say an ancient poem, without asking whether to sit or stand, nor did he ask for the number of words in the poem. Option 2 is even simpler, which is to sit and chop firewood 10 times. The third choice is to stand under the plum tree and sing poetry first, then stroke the palm, and finally sing poetry. Lin Ke quickly made a clear execution route in his mind. That is to make decision 2 first, then make decision 1, and then slowly make decision 3. At that time, he sat on a stool, chopping firewood 10 times. He had already chopped more than 100,000 times, more than 10 times as simple as breathing. Then he put down his firewood knife and looked at the sky to read poetry. Then he got up to execute decision 3, got up and walked to the plum tree, and read poetry again. So all three were completed. Very reasonable. Very smooth. Too much smoother than expected. It really fulfills the previous sentence. Only children do multiple choice questions, while adults do all of them. I just don't know what the final decision will be. Thinking of this, the voice in my mind rang out again. Ding! The decision reward has been issued, please check it. Seeking tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 5. Abolish your lowly status. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Abolish your lowly status. Reward. Favor of unknown Shangshu, note. Due to unknown circumstances, the reward for this decision has been merged into one. With the favor of an unknown Shangshu, one can freely become a disciple, and after 1 year, one can be released from the lowly status without affecting their future path. Is this the reward? Lin Ke lowered his head slightly and looked at the ground, concealing the gleam in his eyes. Unknown Chi surname Shang. The system has turned unknown experts into unknown ministers. He guessed right, this unknown strong man with the surname Chi in black clothes is indeed a Shangshu. As for the specific rewards, such as those like arbitrary apprenticeship, perhaps we will know later. Lin Ke thought of this and let out a soft breath. Once he comes, let it be. He comforts himself in his heart. And as he pondered, the middle-aged man in black clothes occasionally secretly glanced at Lin Ke with his round big eyes. Seeing Lin Ke standing there with an air of composure, he couldn't help but tease the middle-aged man in white across from him with a smile and say, "Hee, are those naughty kids of mine unable to catch your eye?" As soon as Lin Ke finished speaking, he saw his father's previously calm eyes suddenly brighten, and then he opened his mouth and uttered a few words. The swift wind beats the swift arrow, summoning people like a gust of wind. After speaking, a refreshing breeze suddenly blew in the room, and in the blink of an eye, a person appeared in the breeze, transforming from virtual to solid, and finally condensed into a human form. There it is. This is extraordinary power. Lin Ke couldn't help but take a few more glances at his father and then at the minister in black, feeling a bit shaken in his heart. I guess he was also summoned by the minister in black like this. Of course, as for the quality of the poem read by Lin Ke's father, Lin Ke doesn't know how to roast. I don't know who wrote it, but this limerick is really simple and straightforward. While thinking, Lin Ke looked at the young man summoned by his father. This young man looks about the same age as himself, but he is much whiter than himself, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, and a sharp and angular face. Lin Ke looked carefully and felt a bit familiar with his face. He then fixed his eyes on the middle-aged man in the black suit and found that the two looked somewhat similar. It should be the offspring of the unknown black-clothed minister. The young man stood there in a daze for a moment before coming back to his senses, and the first thing he noticed was Lin Ke's gaze. He glanced at Lin Ke, frowned slightly, and then looked at Shangshu and Lin Ke's father at the table. The young man clasped his hands and bowed to the middle-aged man in black, saying, "My child has seen my father." Then he turned around and saluted the middle-aged man in white, saying, "Chi has seen Uncle Lin." The etiquette is meticulous, without any deviation, demonstrating his excellent level of etiquette. "Chi, aren't you not at home? Damn it, how did you get caught by the old man?" Shangshu was quite surprised when he saw his son, as if he shouldn't be here. Yi was also blinded when he saw Shangshu, and then bowed back, saying, "The steward asked the child to stay outside, but he didn't think it was appropriate. As the saying goes, a gentleman should. It's just that you're back, right?" Shangshu impatiently waved his hand. "All right, come on, don't play the role of a corrupt scholar there, hypocritical. That's what. This time, Uncle Lin called you here." Old man, you can talk about it yourself." Lin Ke's father's face remained unchanged, but he remained extremely indifferent. He turned his head to look at Chi next to him and said, "I and Shangshu have summoned you because we need to trouble you with this matter." Lin Ke's father's voice was old and slow. Chi replied, "Uncle Lin, but it doesn't matter." Lin Ke's father nodded and opened his mouth to speak. "This is the case. These two people look more like father and son, every word and sentence exudes a meticulous taste. But when it comes to speaking, it's like that kind of leader, slow and long." Lin Ke was very speechless while listening. Shangshu became even more impatient and interrupted Lin Ke's father's words, all right, speak slowly. I'll come. Come, you come over." The following sentence was spoken to Lin Ke. "Yes," Lin Ke quickly stood over. "He." Shangshu pointed to Yi and explained to Lin Ke. "Let me introduce my seed to you. I am 16 years old like you and will be your opponent a year later." Yi. Yi, this is Lin Ke, the old man's seed. I've seen you, brother. I'm Lin Ke." Lin Ke smiled and saluted. However, Chi's gaze did not even look at Lin Ke, but rather at the two Shangshu, as if waiting for instructions from his superiors. This is a typical case of not taking Lin Ke seriously. Lin Ke was not angry either. After bowing, he resumed his standing posture and still smiled. Shangshu and Lin Ke's father didn't say much when they saw this, as if they both knew why Chi had such an arrogant attitude. "I called you two over this time because I made a bet with the old man." Shangshu chuckled. "I will choose his son from the Lin family, and the old man will choose my son and take him out to teach. In the end, you two will come back here to compete 3 times within a year. In these 3 competitions, the winner must be determined in each game. Whoever can win the competition between you two, the old man and I will win." Shangshu is concise, showcasing his swift and decisive personality. He smacked his lips before continuing, "I chose Lin Ke first, the old man chose Chi, and then you will know what to do next. Do you two have anything else to ask?" Bet agreement. There was no consensus on what to do between the two ministers, so the showdown was conducted through a bet. After all, the struggle between the two Shangshu must have been outside the court, otherwise it wouldn't have required 2 children to come. However, such gambling agreements also have benefits. The winning side naturally doesn't need to say much, they reap all the benefits. The losing side may lose, but at least their own son has been nurtured by the other side for a year, which is not a loss. I just don't know what the bet is. While Lin Ke was pondering, Qi turned his gaze to Lin Shangshu, expressionless, and said, "No one can compete with me." Then Qi looked at Lin Ke, frowning slightly, paying special attention to his clothes that had been starched and washed multiple times, and asked directly, "What are you from?" Qi crossed over to Shangshu and spoke directly to Lin Ke, as if questioning. "What is the origin?" Lin Ke's expression remained unchanged, and his smile continued. "You prostitute. What nationality is his mother? What nationality is he?" Upon hearing the prostitute's name and seeing Lin Ke's expression, Qi frowned even more and said, "Do you think you can beat me?" "It's not a question, it's a statement." Lin Ke's smile remained unchanged and he was very polite. "Are you afraid that prostitutes will win over you?" "It's not a statement, it's a question." Qi's eyebrows suddenly relaxed and he stopped speaking. Lin Ke was speechless in his heart, but on the surface, he looked calm and indifferent. At this moment, Shangshu finished watching their performance and immediately aligned with Yi Dao, saying, "All right, go back and prepare. Tonight, hurry up and leave the Qi family. I'll be annoyed when I see you." Qi pursed his lips and looked at what his father wanted to say, but in the end, he waved his sleeve hard and strode out of the room. "Humph, I knew I wouldn't let those corrupt scholars teach you." Shangshu watched as Qi walked out, his expression not too pretty. During this process, Lin Ke's father remained silent, his eyes remained calm, and he sat there like rotten wood. There was no response when Qi asked Lin Ke what his nationality was, and no response when Lin Ke saluted and Qi looked like there was no one around. The main thing is that there is no response. Unlike Shangshu, who always curses and curses. However, Shangshu, who was cursing and cursing, eventually shifted his attention back to Lin Ke and said, "By the way, do you have any conditions? Just mention it. Finally here." Lin Ke took a deep breath, bowed first, and then looked at Shangshu with a firm gaze, saying, "I have 3 conditions. If you agree, I will do my best." This is what he just came up with. Although there are 3 conditions, he believes that it should not be difficult for someone at the level of Shangshu. Shangshu looked at Lin Ke's gentle and elegant appearance and grinned, saying, "Not to mention 3, I'm glad to meet you today. I can promise you to all 3 of them. But the premise is that I won't directly help you become a saint, haha." He liked Lin Ke's gentle and unassuming appearance more and more as he looked at him. The frustration he had just felt from being challenged by his own son swept away and he said, "Come on, tell me, what are the conditions?" Lin Ke immediately said, "My first condition is that if I can win, I will remove my prostitution status." Although he spoke to Shangshu, Yu Guang was also paying attention to his biological father. However, Lin Ke's father's expression did not change at all, as if Lin Ke was not his son, but a stranger, with no concern for his whereabouts. So he continued, "Because I'm 17 years old next year and haven't taken the imperial examination yet." 17 years old. There is an age limit for the children's imperial examination, and the age of 17 is the last chance for all children's imperial examination candidates. Lin Ke is only 16 today, and 17 next year. If he cannot cancel his lowly status, he will cut off the path of the imperial examination as a result. So, Lin Ke's first condition is to cancel his lowly status. Push a book friends, author is Zheng Tai, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. No other, only hands familiar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. No other, only hands familiar. Lin Ke did not rush to ask if Shangshu could do it, but waited quietly. After all, for him, the matter of leaving the country is extremely important. Although in his opinion, the division of 3, 6, and 9 classes greatly blocks the path of upward and downward circulation, which is a very unfavorable system for the bottom class, he does not like it very much. But how can you get tiger cubs without entering the tiger's den? If he doesn't leave, he won't even have the opportunity to struggle, let alone change. As for the future. If there is an opportunity in the future, let everyone be like a dragon. It's better to abolish this caste system, such as respecting one's status with low status. At this moment, Shangshu pondered for a while before looking at Lin Ke's father again. Seeing that there was no expression, he took a deep breath and said to Lin Ke in a deep voice, "I promised you to cancel my lowly status." Lin Ke looked at Shangshu and bowed slowly, saying, "Thank you, senior. As long as you agree to the last two conditions, I will naturally help you complete the gambling game." Shangshu frowned and waved his hand, saying, "Don't worry, I also have conditions. You must win all 3 competitions within a year before I can cancel your lowly status." Lin Ke's father seemed to have not heard it, neither stopping Shangshu nor keeping his face unchanged, not even looking at anyone. "I understand that even if it's not for your win or loss, I will do my best for myself." Lin Ke's tone was firm. Shangshu frowned and asked, "What is your second condition?" Lin Ke was about to speak when he was interrupted. "Wait. If you ask to enter the court as an official tomorrow and become the 12 ministers the day after tomorrow, then you don't have to say anything more," Shangshu reminded. After hearing Shangshu's suggestion, Lin Ke understood in his heart that Shangshu was drawing a bottom line for him again, asking him to leisurely ask for conditions and not to casually ask without any hesitation. He certainly understands the truth that greed is not enough for snakes to swallow elephants. So he smiled and said, "Of course not. Senior, I have been worried too much. My request is absolutely reasonable." "Then hurry up and let go." Shangshu breathed a sigh of relief and waved his hand without hesitation. Lin Ke nodded and spoke slowly, "My second condition is that no matter where I study in the future, I want to have time to chop firewood every day. Please prepare enough firewood and knives for me, senior." Shangshu. Do you want to help chop firewood every day in the future? Is there such a good thing? Isn't this child foolish? Shangshu was speechless and said, "Are you sure? Concentrate a bit, reach the pinnacle." Lin Ke calmly replied, "This is 10 years of enlightenment. Climbing to the pinnacle." Shangshu raised his eyebrows, somewhat touching, "Concentrate a bit." Lin Ke said softly, "I hold a firewood knife and chop the wood. The wood is placed on the ground and I chop it with a sharp edge. It is divided into 2 parts, with equal weight on both sides. There is nothing else, but my hands are skilled. Do you know how to handle it?" Shangshu was stunned for a moment, then his eyes lit up. "I have agreed to this condition, the next one." Even Lin Ke's father's gaze on the side changed slightly. Upon hearing that Shangshu had agreed to this condition, Lin Ke's face lit up with joy and he bowed to Shangshu in gratitude. After he stood up, he said, "My third condition is to move the plum tree in my chopping yard to the place where I want to study." "What is the significance of this condition?" Shangshu thought for a moment and asked. Lin Ke looked around at their reactions and saw that their father had no reaction, still remaining calm and composed. He slowly spoke up and said, "The wind and bone of the plum reflect on my body." As he spoke, he took a deep breath. Plum blossoms have never stopped blooming due to the cold winter wind, and many times they still bloom during heavy snowfall. The younger generation has a deep understanding of this, so I have repeatedly told myself to establish this spirit of perseverance and constantly remind myself not to slack off or indulge in myself due to warmth, comfort, wealth, and laziness. Lin Ke stopped and looked at the changes in the faces of his father and Shangshu. "My father is still as before." But Shangshu's eyes were constantly shining and his face was full of smiles. Lin Ke continued, "Another important reason is that this plum blossom was planted by my mother while she was alive, and the only plum tree I can't let go of in the Lin family is the one." Lin Ke's words were intentional and aimed to prick his father's heart. But it seems that nothing can affect that man's mood. This is also good. Lin Ke's heart must be clear. Since Lin Ke's father is indeed a stranger to Lin Ke, he can also bear no psychological burden. He was not familiar with Lin Ke's father, so he didn't have to pretend to be filial in the future. Upon hearing Lin Ke's words, Shangshu was initially happy, but later his eyes became complicated. But he still laughed and said, "Okay, I'll move the plum tree for you later. I have agreed to all three of your conditions, don't you have any other questions?" Lin Ke smiled and nodded, "Alright, that's it, then you go back and prepare first." Shangshu smiled and seemed to like Lin Ke very much. After hearing this, Lin Ke turned around and prepared to leave, but looked up to the left and right, and after some thought, he turned his head again. "Senior." Lin Ke scratched his head. Shangshu was about to talk to Lin Ke's father when he was interrupted by a senior call from Lin Ke. He turned to Lin Ke and asked with a smile, "What's wrong? Are there any other questions?" Lin Ke felt embarrassed and said, "Senior, you called me over too quickly just now. I didn't remember the way, please ask someone to show me the way." Coming too quickly. Shangshu was stunned for a moment, then smiled, lifted his hand that had already been placed on the table, waved it, and spat out two words from his mouth. "Let's go. Here we go. Extraordinary power." Lin Ke widened his eyes and looked. Many scenes quickly passed before his eyes, including a small lake, a pavilion with white glazed tiles, a garden with blooming flowers, busy servants, and so on. When he felt his feet stepping on the ground, he found himself standing in the plum tree yard. Lin Ke looked around in some astonishment after landing. Coming back. Sure enough. Superordinary power is the primary productive force. If it were for ordinary ancient times, Lin Ke would have initiated the Industrial Revolution and the wave of thought. But here. Extraordinary power can replace many things. Or. Can it be combined with many things? What would happen if a great Confucian recited a poem there, such as, "The Lone Brave" and "Unity is Strength"? What if it were books like, "Capital, Wealth of Nations, Spear Overview," etc.? What kind of sparks can be ignited by the combination of extraordinary power and everything from the past life? Lin Ke stood quietly in the courtyard, looking up at the sky without moving, pondering everything for today. At this moment, the sky is setting in the west, and the vast majority of the sky is occupied by red clouds in the entrance. It's different from the sky of the 21st century where it used to be. At that time, Link often stood on the rooftop and looked up at the sky. Compared to the sky at that time, the blue here made Link feel cleaner. And under such a clean blue sky, I wonder if the reality of this world is the same as the previous one, black and white coexist, dirty and clean coexist. Lin Ke withdrew his gaze and thought of his father who had no emotion in his eyes just now. He doesn't have any anger or other emotions, after all, he's not Lin Ke. However, he could also vaguely think of the origin of Lin Ke's father's indifference. Of course, since there is such an opportunity to go out, there is no need to pay more attention to the Lin mansion. Chop firewood. Chop firewood. Thinking of this, Lin Ke sat down on a small stool in front of Chai Fong and continued his previous work. Chopping wood and fire. Pop. Pop. The sound of chopping firewood kept ringing in the small courtyard. At noon on the second day, Shangshu suddenly appeared in Lin Ke's yard, causing Lin Ke, who was chopping firewood, to be slightly stunned before realizing it. I have met Senior Chi. Lin Ke stood up and bowed, then picked up the cloth bag at his feet and inserted the firewood knife into the gap of the package, saying, I have already packed up, Senior Chi, let's go. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Poetry, Painting and Harmony. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Poetry, Painting and Harmony, Squeak. The door to the house in the chopping yard opened, and Lin Ke changed into clothes and walked out. Not bad, not bad. In front of Lin Ke, Shangshu's eyes lit up and he praised, my vision is still good, although it's a bit wider. In the future, I can eat well and get fat, and then I can hold on. That's right. I have half the appearance I had when I was young, and I can do it. As he spoke, he also tugged at Lin Ke to see if his clothes fit well. Lin Ke listened to Shangshu's boasting and grinned, what's so young? The senior still looks handsome and extraordinary now. How could I have half of the demeanor of the senior? I'm afraid I'm not even as handsome as the senior. Upon hearing Lin Ke's praise, Shangshu raised his forehead and burst into laughter, saying, you slick, let's go. Okay, Lin Ke touched the clothes on his body, feeling very special in his heart. Yesterday, Shangshu had someone cut 2 sets of clothes for him overnight according to his own measurements. When Lin Ke received the clothes, he was still deeply moved on the surface, performing the kind of emotion that a lowly man from the Great Wei should have when he received such clothes. Of course, he is actually quite happy in his heart. By the way, senior, wait for me for a moment. Lin Ke was about to leave when he remembered something and called out to Shangshu. Upon hearing Lin Ke's words, Shangshu looked at him and said, what's going on? Lin Ke smiled apologetically and then walked to the plum tree. He first spread his arms and turned around, showcasing his new clothes, as if to show them to someone. Then he knelt down facing the mound, kowtowed 3 times before getting up. Lin Ke stood up and walked up to Shangshu, saying with a smile, okay, Senior Chi. Not bad. Shangshu nodded and said, then let's go. As he spoke, he waved his hand. When Lin Ke saw it clearly, he saw himself and Shangshu standing on the street. Although he had already experienced it twice, he still felt that this extraordinary technique was truly remarkable. Looking back. Behind is the gate of the Lin mansion, with a plaque that stretches out 1 arm wide. The 2 characters of the Lin mansion are written in gilded gold, in regular script, with a neat form, and each stroke is just right. There's nothing interesting, let's go. Shangshu spoke up and turned around on his own, taking big strides to leave. Lin Ke withdrew his gaze and followed behind him, finally leaving the place where Lin Ke had lived deeply for many years. On the way, Lin Ke occasionally asked Shangshu some questions. How should I address you, senior? Just call me Shangshu. Oh, what is the division of martial arts realms, Shangshu? You will naturally know in the future. Shangshu, what is your current state of mind? Why are you talking so much nonsense, kid? Shangshu. The 2 of them chatted along the way, looking at the rough landscape of the capital city. The capital is very large, which is inevitable. After all, it is the imperial capital of the Great Wei Dynasty, under the feet of the Holy Light, and the level of prosperity is no less than that of the capital in the 21st century. Lin Ke also asked Shangshu why he didn't fly directly to his destination today. At that time, Shangshu turned around and answered solemnly, how can the land of the capital be like being in one's own home? Isn't this important place of the country filled with people flying around in disorder? Lin Ke was speechless about this double standard. After all, Shangshu had flown 6 times faster than anyone before. Later, Lin Ke, who was originally memorizing the road, gave up. At the beginning, he still remembered how many turns he had taken, how many intersections he had taken, and how many small alleys he had crossed. But in the end, he couldn't remember how many turns he had taken or how many alleys he had walked, all he knew was that he had reached his destination. Is that right here? After Shangshu stood still, Lin Ke immediately looked into the nearest alley. This is a very small alley with some shops inside, but it looks like business is not doing well. And the outermost part of this alley is a gulan. In this world, gulan, weiyo, and qinglu are 3 things that represent performing arts, selling oneself, and performing arts also selling oneself. What are you doing in front of the fence door? Lin Ke's heart skipped a beat when he caught a glimpse of Qi Shangshu's back, wondering if this old man wanted to. Qi Shangshu felt Lin Ke's gaze, turned around, and coincidentally met Lin Ke's strange gaze. His eyelids twitched and he scolded him. Am I saying that you haven't woken up yet and are still dreaming? My monthly salary is not enough for me to drink flower wine. Do you still want me to treat you to flower wine? Hee hee. Lin Ke, who was seen through, didn't feel embarrassed and grinned. Qi Shangshu turned around and kicked Lin Ke, but ignored him and walked straight towards the alley. The people on this road are sparse, obviously much rarer than the street they just passed by. And I don't know what kind of deception Qi Shangshu used, the people around him seemed to be unable to see them, passing by one without feeling anything. They walked straight inside without stopping in front of the courtyard door of any shops. After reaching the innermost part, Qi Shangshu spoke up directly and said, "That's it. You'll be living on this Chaoyang street for the next year, and how much you can learn here depends on yourself." He looked around and added, "Don't look down on lowly people. Although the people here may seem ordinary on the surface, at least they all have their own unique skills. Oh, by the way, you can make up for your own life here." "Ah. Why?" Lin Ke asked. Qi Shangshu looked at him with a playful expression and said, "Aren't you a big dream, who knew it first? I know it all my life." With such a strong tone, "I don't think I need an old man to worry about your food, drink, and urination anymore. That's it." Lin Ke awkwardly smiled as he heard Qi Shangshu recite a poem describing Zhuge. "Uncle Qi, is there anything else you need to pay attention to?" "Uncle Qi. On the left is the Minister of Qi, and on the right is the Minister of Qi. Where is Uncle Qi close?" If it weren't for seniority, Lin Ke would have thought of calling him Qi Gu. Qi Shangshu raised his finger and pointed to the left and right sides of the street. "I have some rules. Firstly, you are not allowed to leave this street and do whatever you want. Secondly, remember that I am just a wanderer here, not a minister. If I reveal my identity, the peace here may be disrupted." Speaking, Qi Shangshu turned around and said to Lin Ke, "Follow me, take you to your residence." At the end of the street, Qi Shangshu held his left hand and pointed to the courtyard on the right, saying, "I've arranged everything for you. It's this courtyard, I'm grand." Before Lin Ke could speak, he took a step and walked towards the courtyard door. Lin Ke naturally followed with a skeptical gaze. Qi Shangshu pushed open the door himself and did not enter, as if he was momentarily stunned by the scene inside. Because his back was facing Lin Ke only saw Qi Shangshu pause for a moment. But when the door opened, Lin Ke was also stunned. "Is this what we call arranged?" After opening the door, the scene inside caught the eye. The yard is overgrown with weeds, and the grass has grown to over one person's height if we don't say it. Lin Ke thinks that even if we plant more trees around here, we can create a small forest park. Lin Ke had some doubts and said, "Uncle Qi, are you sure this is not someone else's yard? This courtyard is like an abandoned small courtyard that hasn't been taken care of in years." Qi Shangshu waved his hand and said, "This is my yard. I am a lowly wanderer and have been traveling around for years. It's reasonable for the yard to be a bit deserted." "A reasonable ghost, okay, it's quite reasonable." Lin Ke's words stopped when he heard this. A porter, in simple terms, is someone who carries bags. Dock unloading, helping people deliver express delivery, being a sailor and boatman on a merchant ship, and so on, can all be considered as the scope of a boatman. This is also true for some businesses without a fixed residence. However, Lin Ke still moved his steps and walked into the courtyard, standing in the courtyard to patrol these wooden generals and grass soldiers, feeling very helpless. It's too wild. Looking at Lin Ke's expression, Qi Shangshu's face showed no hint of embarrassment and he said directly, "You live here. I will have someone transplant the tree in the next 2 days, and you can take care of everything else yourself." "Wow. don't forget to compare and try things. After speaking, the figure of Shangshu had disappeared, but Lin Ke could still hear Shangshu's words echoing in his ear. Running really fast. The door was empty, and Lin Ke turned to look at the two small rooms behind him. I have no choice but to clean it myself. Lin Ke turned around and silently placed the package on the stone under the eaves, took out a firewood knife from the package, and began to weed. However, as Lin Ke bent down to weed, he finally realized something was wrong. That's not right, didn't Uncle Chi just say that important areas in the capital cannot fly randomly? It's really 6. Before I could finish speaking, a gentle breeze blew over my face. Lin Ke felt something was amiss and was about to run away, but one hand had already pressed down on his shoulder. Ah, what's that? Uncle Chi, didn't you leave? Lin Ke turned back. Then he flew out and fell onto the grass, grinning in pain. However, his body is too strong, which means there is a slight pain in his buttocks, and nothing else. In his previous position, Shangshu, who had already left, reappeared and clapped his hands, saying, "It's much more comfortable now." Later, Shangshu looked proud and said, "I forgot to tell you. The old man discussed it before coming. It's like this, every competition is mixed with civil and military skills, but there is still a difference in direction and topic." Direction and topic. Upon hearing something important, Lin Ke immediately stood up. Yes, this time they set the direction, let's set the topic. Shangshu said. In terms of literature, there are directions such as poetry, fu, argumentation, inscriptions, parallel prose, memorials, and sacrificial essays. As for the title, you can decide on it. In terms of martial arts, there are strength, speed, responsiveness, physical coordination, endurance, etc., which can be reflected through horseback riding, archery, swords, spears, punches, feet, martial arts willpower, and comprehension. Miscellaneous, the direction is for various genres such as music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. You can also compare things with Buddhism, Taoism, and demons. However, this time the direction has been set for painting, and painting is more about artistic conception, craftsmanship, and imagination. Speaking, Shangshu touched his chin and chuckled. The direction of this article is poetry, and you can choose topics such as Wing Mei, Wing Chun, night, mountain, water, etc. as the theme of your poem. And this time, Wu's direction is body coordination. You can choose to compete on questions such as archery, horseback riding, and pitching to see who has a stronger body. I have already mentioned the direction of Zeli, and you also need to think about the topic yourself. After Shangshu explained for a while, Lin Ke finally understood in his heart. Direction and question. The meaning is that civil and martial arts are similar to the 3 subjects of Chinese, mathematics, and English in previous lives. Once the exam subjects are determined, the specific direction of the exam must be determined. For example, there are various directions in Chinese language, such as reading comprehension, memorizing poetry or words, and writing essays. Yi needs to determine the direction for this time, whether it is to take the essay exam or reading. Lin Ke, on the other hand, needs to determine the specific exam questions for reading, whether it is an expository essay, argumentative essay, or narrative essay. Once confirmed, the competition will begin as soon as the 3-month period arrives. I see. Is poetry, painting, and bodily harmony. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Li Chungang Tofu Shop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Li Chungang Tofu Shop. Lin Ke was busy all afternoon. After cleaning up the weeds in the yard, I went to the well deep in the street to fetch some water and wipe away the dust and other debris inside the house. And Shangshu left after finishing the competition questions. However, when he left, He took advantage of Lin Ke's broken mouth and gave him a kick when he came back to leave with a refreshing slap on his buttocks. And also reminded Lin Ke that his hidden identity here is that of a wandering husband. Once again, it should not be disclosed. After cleaning the yard, Lin Ke sat on a stool at the door to rest for a while, and then stood up again. The first thing he needs to consider. Livelihood. Don't be too inexperienced, starve yourself to death in this unknown courtyard first, then you will be unlucky. This alley is not very wide or long, but there are gulen, restaurants, storytelling tea shops, painting workshops, meat shops, and so on. He stood up and walked out of the courtyard door, but as soon as he walked with one foot outside, a crisp sound came to his mind. Ding! Chaoyang Street, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Gentleman's Destiny, starting from the end of the world, please choose. Option 1, take the rope from Li Chunggang's hand by the well, hold it for 3 seconds, and then explain to Li Chunggang's ancestors and grandchildren that they are looking for a living. Attention from the great scholar Li Chungang, you can learn from him later. She. Every day at 2:00 p.m. for a year. Option 2, go to the Fairyland painting workshop, observe Wang Lin's paintings, and directly praise her paintings as the Fairyland of painting. Take. Painter Wang Lin has a good impression and can learn painting from a teacher. She. Within 6 months, she has not applied for 2 hours a day. Decision 3, go to Tofu restaurant and talk to the shopkeeper, explaining that they are looking for a livelihood. Obtain. Apprentice the shopkeeper and receive support from the business community. She. Within 6 months, it will be 2:00 every day. Here we go. A new choice. Lin Ke squinted his eyes and his brain quickly started running. What is the most effective and powerful aspect of this gentleman's trade-off system, apart from the so-called trade-offs? Investigation. Just like the previously unknown attention. If it weren't for this system prompt, Lin Ke would probably be chopping firewood and not knowing anything. And now it's the same. Confucianism, Taoism, painters, merchants. Lin Ke pondered carefully in his heart. From the expressions of these 3 choices, it can be inferred that these people are not necessarily weak. And the system also made him aware of the areas that these people are most proficient in and strongest in. I just don't know if these 3 people are the strongest in Chaoyang Street. Is there an old man Chi who is powerful? Thinking too much is useless. He shook his head. Anyway, he would know later. However, when Lin Ke thought about it and looked at the choices between the 3 options, he suddenly realized. It seems that there are also 3 non-conflicting choices. That is to say, he can take all the choices. After considering it, Lin Ke looked around left and right. Although this alley is short, it is extremely lively, with various shouts coming and going. Pork, the freshest pork. The latest painting by the most talented woman of the Great Wei Dynasty has been released. Come and watch it quickly. The kind with a plot. Hey, official, come and play. Various voices echo in unison, and those who don't know may think this is some kind of downtown commercial street in the capital city. The result was just a muddy and foul-smelling alley. Besides being a lowly person, Lin Ke couldn't imagine anyone else would come to wander in this slum-like alley. While observing, he searched for decision-making targets. It's easy to find. Li Chungang Tofu Shop, Wonderland Painting Workshop, and Tofu Restaurant. Lin Ke quickly searched these places and then locked in one of them. On the left side of the courtyard door, there is an old man with white hair and bare upper body, struggling to pull a rope by the well. The elderly person has a strong physique, and their back muscles fluctuate violently every time they exert force. The old man was fetching water alone by the well, and there was no one else. Is this Li Chungang? Lin Ke's eyes lit up and he walked towards Li Chungang, who was fetching water. I'll help you, old man, Lin Ke said softly as he approached and looked at the tightrope. Acting like a passionate and respectful young man. Actors are good at acting. Of course, Lin Ke believes that he is indeed a young person who respects the old and loves the young. Ha ha ha, no need, I'm pretty good. Li Chungang glanced at Lin Ke with a hint of a smile in his eyes. Then turn around and continue to exert force on the tight rope that extends into the well. Don't dodge your waist, old man. Lin Ke smiled and didn't stop because Li Chungang refused. He answered while reaching out to pick up the rope. Let me help you. Haha. Li Chungang grinned and handed the rope to Lin Ke, saying with a smile, is that okay, young man? It's okay, kid has plenty of strength. Lin Ke spoke, took the rope, and looked into the well. One of them was pitch black. He first grabbed the end of the rope and wrapped it around his hand. However, when Li Chungang let go of the rope, Lin Ke suddenly felt a huge pulling force coming from the rope and rushed towards the wellhead. Pop! In an instant, someone patted his shoulder and the barrel in his hand came to a stop. Turning his head, it turned out that Li Chungang had helped him. Looking at Li Chungang's smile, Lin Ke didn't care if he was a bit energetic. Sure enough. This is indeed a master. Looking back at the rope stretching straight towards the wellhead. He knows that the system only needs to persist for 3 seconds. So his arms and waist began to exert force, trying to withstand it. And began to silently count in my heart. 1, 2 suddenly, Lin Ke, who had just given up his strength, felt as if his waist had been hit by a heavy object, and he fell sideways. Lin Ke was knocked to the side and the rope flew out of his grasp. But fortunately, it's already 3 seconds. The first thing he did when he fell down was to turn around and look at Li Chungang, only to find a man standing next to the old man with a dusty face, a sweat scarf tied to his head, and a cloth jacket. Shangshu. Just after dressing up, that is the walking man has big eyes. I saw Shangshu gently wave his hand, and the rope head that had already been brought into the well reappeared in Li Chungang's hand. Hiss. At this moment, Lin Ke felt waves of pain coming from his hands. When the rope was being held up just now, it wasn't very painful. After releasing the rope, the pain in his hands came, causing his arms to tremble slightly with pain. Not bad, Li Chungang turned around to look at Lin Ke's trembling arms, patted Lin Ke's shoulder, laughed, shook his head, and continued to look into the well. But Shangshu spoke with a tone of silence. Stinky kid, if you don't want your arms anymore, just speak up and I'll help you unload them. Big eyes, it's good for young people to have perseverance and a willingness to help others. Li Chungang beside him smiled and responded to Shangshu. It does hurt a bit. Lin Ke stood up and rubbed his hands together, looking at Li Chungang. Old man, please be busy first. I have something else to do. Then he looked at Shangshu with a bitter smile and said, Uncle Chi, didn't you leave? If it weren't for persisting for 3 seconds just now, according to the system, wouldn't it be impossible to become a disciple? With Shangshu here, how can he still apprentice? Shangshu's eyes widened and he shouted loudly, if I don't come back, your arm will be dragged into the well. What Li Chungang just hit was not ordinary water. Lin Ke felt somewhat helpless, but he never expected that Shangshu would go back and forth. He didn't expect the first decision to be so dangerous. I know, isn't this about helping the elderly? Helping the elderly. Shangshu seemed even angrier upon hearing this. Quickly help yourself. Hey. As he spoke, he muttered a few more words in silence. Forget it, I don't know what happened to you, kid. By chance, you could still come across this bloody butcher. It's really. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Fairyland Painting Workshop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Fairyland Painting Workshop. Lin Ke's eyebrows twitched, thinking he had heard the wrong thing. The system doesn't prompt, is Li Chungang a Confucian expert? What's going on with the blood hand butcher? Forget it, I'm too lazy to bother with you. Anyway, if you want to leave the country, you should work hard on your own. Shangshu waved his hand and then disappeared to the spot. Lin Ke shook his head helplessly, as if coming and going were like the wind, moving swiftly and swiftly. Then he stood still and pondered for a while, then turned around and walked quickly towards the street. Decision 1 has not yet been prompted to end, as he has only taken on the system task for the second time and does not know what the sign of failure is. Since that's the case, then follow the system's instructions to complete the task. Option 1 is to insist on holding on for 3 seconds, and then talk to Li Chungang, the tofu shop owner and grandson, explaining what he wants to do. He can only be considered half done now. Although interrupted by Shangshu, Lin Ke persisted for 3 seconds. So, next is the second half. Persist for 3 seconds, then go talk and learn from your teacher. Li Chungang tofu shop. Lin Ke had just walked up to the store door and looked inside, only to see 2 bloody things on the table inside. There are 2 plates of tofu on that table. But that tofu is not white, but red, pure red. Blood. Lin Ke could smell the faint smell of blood inside as he stood at the door. Blood tofu. This scene doesn't seem like a tofu shop, but rather like a crime scene. Pop. Lin Ke felt a tap on his shoulder, his whole body stiff, and he didn't turn back. Go inside. Only a voice was heard, full of confidence, and then Lin Ke saw a figure standing beside him in the corner of his eye. It's Li Chungang. This shop is Li Chungang's tofu shop. Lin Ke let out a breath and said, "Old man, weren't you just fetching water? What are you doing here?" He pretended not to know that this shop belonged to Li Chungang, or rather that the old man was Li Chungang. After all, he knew that Li Chungang came from the system prompt, which prompted him to go to the great scholar Li Chungang and hold the reins for 3 seconds. Li Chungang smiled heartily and said, "Ha ha ha, you're at the door of my shop. What did you say I came for?" Before she could reply, a woman slowly walked out of the tofu shop. The woman has an ordinary appearance, simple clothing, and even a little baby fat, with a tall figure. However, her voice was sharp and piercing, like the sharp sound of a dolphin. The woman spoke out as if she wanted to penetrate Lin Ke's eardrums through her voice. "I know you came with Daoyun. Where are Daoyun people?" Daoyun. Lin Ke clenched his fists and said, "Sorry, I don't know where Mr. Chi is." Then he arched his hand to Li Chungang beside him and said, "Old man, I came to ask if we need any janitories in our store. I can come over and help. I can do anything, just have a meal every day." The unnamed woman looked at Lin Ke and then at Li Chungang, her eyes full of questions. Li Chungang seemed to have known what the woman was asking for a long time, so he didn't wait for the woman to speak and said it directly. "Ha ha ha, starting from tomorrow, you can come to me at midnight every day to help me and my granddaughter make blood tofu. Just have lunch every day. It's already 9:00 to 11:00 in the morning and 11:00 to 1:00 in the afternoon. Work for 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning, and then finish eating. So easy." Lin Ke was puzzled in his heart. Could it be that Shangshu arranged it for him? However, he still smiled slightly and bowed, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Li." "No thanks, no thanks, I really like your handsome talent." Li Chungang, the old man, looked at Lin Ke with a smile, making Lin Ke's heart furrow. Does this great Confucian scholar seem to claim to be slaughtered by a bloody hand? Old man, then I'll leave first. Under the gaze of the kind Mr. Li Chungang and his granddaughter, Lin Ke quickened his pace and left the store. "Remember to come find me tomorrow, little brother." Just as Lin Ke left the shop, Mr. Li Chunggang's gentle and kind voice came out. "Definitely." Lin Ke agreed verbally, but there was always a strange feeling and he quickened his pace. After Lin Ke left, Mr. Li Chungang slowly sighed and said, "The sword edge has been sharpened. It's really good. And his granddaughter, with a cold face and sharp eyes on the side, did not answer her grandfather's words. Instead, she calmly spoke up from the side, "I'm against my brother Qi. Everyone has to die." Saying goodbye to Li Chungang and Li Feiyu, he took a step towards the next family. Although the two gentlemen had strange eyes, Lin Ke still breathed a slight sigh of relief. At least, he has already paid half of his master's respects. Although it's blood tofu, it's unlikely to be human blood, right? After all, he is a great scholar. Thinking of this, he looked at another store. Name: Fairyland Painting Workshop. There are two paintings left and right outside the store. The painting on the left seems to be a green mountain. Lin Ke can't even tell what he drew. On the right is a painting of a flowing river. These two pictures are a bit ordinary. Is this the painting of Dao, everyone? I feel like I'm not as good at copying other people's paintings as I was in middle school. Does this still require apprenticeship? When Lin Ke questioned in his heart, a soft and weak voice came from the studio to his ear. She is a girl who feels very soft and her voice is also soft. Young master, does my painting look good? I saw a woman standing at the entrance of the painting workshop, dressed in a light green dress, with a beautiful appearance and a floating voice like clouds, like a celestial being who does not eat human fireworks. I heard the woman continue to introduce herself softly, "My guest, I am Wang Lin, the most talented woman in the Great Wei Dynasty. This is my painting." Wang Lin. The most talented woman in the Great Wei Dynasty. Lin Ke only heard these two key points, and later Wang Lin's voice was as faint as the sound of mosquitoes. There was a little distance, and he couldn't hear the sound clearly, so he decided not to listen. He saw the woman's lips stop, probably finished speaking, and immediately raised his hand and said, "Miss Wang, my name is Lin Ke. I was introduced by an acquaintance to worship your paintings. Your paintings are like a fairyland of painting. You are truly the most talented woman of the Great Wei Dynasty. Your paintings." Lin Ke immediately arranged a second choice for Wang Lin and said a lot of praise. However, Wang Lin's reaction was also extraordinary. "Do you think my paintings are good?" Wang Lin was taken aback by the words and waved to interrupt Lin Ke's praise. "Are you sick?" With this wave of hand, the temperament disappears. No, the aura of a celestial being has disappeared. If it is said that the relegated immortal just came down from the sky, now the relegated immortal has stepped forward to dance the most dazzling national-style square dance, and his face has a strong powder blusher. Wang Lin looked at Lin Ke with a silly expression, but after a moment, her eyes lit up. Oh. It's like this, I understand." She then, like a thief, extended her head to the left and right of the shop and quickly looked around. After confirming that there was no one around, she reached out and grabbed Lin Ke's wrist, directly pulling him into the painting workshop. Wait. Lin Ke hasn't figured out what's going on yet, just feeling a bit confused. No, is it the fairy from the sky or the ant from the ground who pulled me in? At this moment, as she entered the workshop, Wang Lin made a sound as she walked. Lin Ke. Why don't you just tell my mother that you were introduced by an acquaintance? Did Butcher Zhang or Mr. Li introduce you? Why didn't those old colored embryos come with you? I have new paintings. I'm a copycat of ice. Mom. Old colored embryo. Butcher Zhang. Old man Li. What does it mean? Lin Ke listened to Wang Lin's words and saw the scene inside the store clearly. Suddenly, his mind couldn't turn a corner. The walls inside the store are covered with paintings, and those paintings are nothing unexpected, similar to the two paintings displayed outside. Only a few paintings can roughly recognize what was painted. It seems like a flower. But I can't see any flowers. By comparison, the two paintings placed outside are the ones that can be handled the most. Is this Tama the most talented woman in the world? While observing the situation, Lin Ke had already been pulled to a wooden door by Wang Lin. This house is like a suite, similar to a private room in a restaurant. Standing in front of the suite, Wang Lin turned around and gave Lin Ke a mysterious smile. Hee, wait a moment. Then her hand, caught Lin Ke's incredulous gaze, plunged straight into between her two papayas, and pulled out a bronze key from between. After taking out the key, he opened the lock directly towards the door and pushed it in at an extremely fast speed. Then, he reached out from inside the door and grabbed Lin Ke's collar, pulling him into the room. No, don't. Lin Ke was surprised. What is this for? Lin Ke, who was pulled into the house, looked up and saw that it was pitch black with no light, and he couldn't see anything. Bang! Wang Lin quickly closed the wooden door. Wait a little longer, you didn't make an appointment, I wasn't prepared. Then I saw Wang Lin walking towards the dark part of the room with a lit candle. There were also candles in other corners, and when Wang Lin finished this routine, the entire room lit up. Wang Lin walked over and squinted her eyes with a lewd smile. Come and take a look, how are these paintings, madam? Compared to just now, Wang Lin's expression and demeanor were vastly different, fully demonstrating to Lin Ke what it means to flip a face faster than a book. If Lin Ke had just entered, Wang Lin was like a white lotus that was hiding in the mud, weak, pure white and noble. After Lin Ke entered, Wang Lin was completely like an old chrysanthemum in the mud, with every wrinkle of her expression filled with lewdness. It's simply revealing its true form. At this moment, Lin Ke's gaze began to shift upon hearing the sound. Then his pupils instantly dilated, his mouth slightly opened, and he felt a surge of blood rushing towards his nose. Sleeping trough. This kind of thing. Let me tell you something very strange, it's like this a few days ago, I heard that there was a handsome and beautiful book friend who gave a recommendation in monthly pass to a person named Xiao Bai. Guess what happened? It's so weird. That handsome guy is even more beautiful than Or and has become the richest man. Omega, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Learning Painting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Learning Painting. What did Lin Ke see? He can't believe he can see these in this world. These paintings are vastly different from the ones outside, and they are simply beautiful and lifelike, giving people a sense of immersion. After a moment, Lin Ke regained consciousness in surprise and quickly calmed down. I have always seen big scenes before, and there are also many paintings from the 21st century, such as Teacher Tsang and Teacher Ozawa. Of course, although I think so in my heart, my body may not think so. He heard Wang Lin pointing to a small door inside and whispering softly, He, young master, can't help but see there's a dedicated room over there. Lin Ke followed Wang Lin's gaze but didn't speak, just took a deep breath. As Wang Lin continued softly, are you considering not having toilet paper? I can provide it for you. It's 10 won per roll outside, and I'll sell it for 3 won per roll. For others, I'll sell it for 20 won per roll. Is it cost-effective to sell it to you for 3 won? Am I currently considering the issue of toilet paper or not? You are making people commit crimes, big sister. Can this be fairy jumping or fishing law enforcement? Master, can we worship or not? Lin Ke pondered, looking hesitant. Wang Lin took advantage of the heat and said, I can sell you 3 won with conditions, but you have to show me that. Lin Ke suddenly looked at Wang Lin, his eyes showing horror. But Wang Lin didn't give him a chance to speak. Other young women may not like it, but you are the exception. I can see it. Wang Lin squinted her eyes slightly and extended her tongue, licking around her lips. Upon hearing this, Lin Ke was about to turn around and leave, but then stopped. This studio is also equipped with a small black room. Do you also provide toilet paper? No wonder it's called the Wonderland Painting Workshop. You can call it Xingjing Painting Workshop or Zhenhua Painting Workshop. Before entering, one is entangled in desire, but when going out, one can become like a blue lantern and an ancient Buddha, with a heart like that of a sage, and like being in a fairyland. Lin Ke looked at Wang Lin beside her and twisted her buttocks before turning to Wang Lin and saying, "No need, Miss Wang." "Oh." Wang Lin furrowed her brows slightly and then looked up and down at Lin Ke. Her aggressive gaze made Lin Ke's hair stand on end, shivering coldly. Emphasize the point, give a shiver, and shake for a moment. Seeing Lin Ke tremble, Wang Lin's gaze stopped at the base of Lin Ke's thigh. She pursed her lips with disdain, as if she had misunderstood something. "That's all for now. You can't do it either." "No, I." Lin Ke immediately became furious. However, before he could say anything, he saw Wang Lin showing a sudden expression and frowning. Oh. Does the young master like others?" I understand. Do you like muscular men? Are you the domineering prince and his guards? Or what?" Wang Lin's eyes sparkled with wisdom, shining brightly as she continued, "You all have these special hobbies, and I have a room over there. Stop, if you keep listening, this book will be banned." Lin Ke was shocked and quickly waved his hand to interrupt Wang Lin's increasingly outrageous words. "Miss Wang, I'm here to find you to learn painting as a disciple." She stopped twirling her fingers and heard Lin Ke say she was coming to pay her respects. She raised her eyebrows and then walked to the only chair in the room and sat down, saying, "Isn't it for consumption?" Lin Ke's eyes were wide open, like the eyes of an old man Qi. "Why?" Because Wang Lin, like a man, tilted her legs outward, sat in position with a golden sword, and then exposed the space between her legs' autumn pants. Lin Ke raised his eyebrows like Wang Lin. "This is too much, sister. Don't consume." "Apprentice." At this moment, Wang Lin sat on the chair with a big grin and heard Lin Ke's apprentice request. She couldn't help but say, "Sure, I can teach you how to draw turtles, papaya, cherries, long dragons." Stop. Oh my goodness. Lin Ke listened to these dangerous words and quickly stopped interrupting Wang Lin's words, helplessly saying, "Master. What I want to learn is something else." "Master." Upon hearing Lin Ke call her master, Wang Lin didn't seem to care, but waved her hand and asked, "So what do you want to learn?" "Let me first say, some things are too niche, and you may not be able to sell them after learning them." What a mess. Lin Ke couldn't help but laugh and cry, but he breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that Wang Lin didn't care about his master's words. Immediately, he explained, "Because I will be competing with others in the future to draw. Although these paintings in the room are good, I cannot use them to compete with others. You can still teach me some serious things and try them out with others." He could see that the paintings outside of Wang Lin were confusing, and he also saw her true skills clearly when he entered here. "It's true, everyone. At least so many paintings, each one is so exquisite and beautiful that even if I paint for 10 years, I may not be able to paint this kind of feeling. If I had lived in my past life, I would probably have been able to support a small website." "So." Wang Lin caressed her chin with her right hand and looked at Lin Ke with a puzzled expression. "Who are you going to compete with?" Lin Ke hesitated for a moment and slowly said, "I want to compete with Qi Yi." "Qi Yi." Wang Lin stroked her chin with her right hand and her eyes widened slightly. She confirmed word by word, "Qi Yi, the son of Qi Tianxia, Minister of War." Lin Ke nodded calmly upon hearing the words. He only knew that old Qi was the Minister of Personnel, and did not know that the former name of the Minister of Personnel was Qi Tianxia. Good name. At this moment, Wang Lin stood up directly and looked around at the walls and paintings inside her house, saying, "Then go out and talk." Lin Ke felt relieved and breathed a sigh of relief. "It's too agonizing here. Do we all have to learn painting in a small black room in the future? Isn't this a test of the determination of cadres?" After the two of them walked out of the small black room, Wang Lin waved her hand and all the candles in the room were extinguished. Lin Ke's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. "You're a master again." He has seen many masters so far, including his own father, Qi Lao Tu, and Li Chungang, although there are only 3. Plus the current Wang Lin, the 4th one. He had already felt that he was gradually producing antibodies, and he didn't seem so surprised by supernatural power anymore. After walking out of the small black room, the two stood still in the shop, but neither of them spoke. Wang Lin, who was pondering, seemed to have made some decision, holding a boxing fist in her right hand and hitting it in the palm of her left hand. Pop. Then he said, "Qi Yi is a Confucian scholar. It's not easy to defeat him, but it's not difficult either. If I teach you for 2 or 3 years, you can easily defeat him. Of course, you have to pay for the tuition." Ha ha ha. "I'm such a genius. I can make another profit." Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. "What kind of ghost?" Lin Ke's expression froze when he heard this and said, "Yesterday we scheduled a 3-month competition. Yes, there were also civil and martial arts competitions and 3 subjects. 3 months. Wang Lin heard Lin Ke's words and immediately reached out to touch Lin Ke's forehead. She looked at Lin Ke like a fool and said, "Damn it, are you sick? I want to win over Qi Yi in 3 months. You know, Qi Yi is a genius who ranks high in the entire capital. If you want to win over him, you can still be civil and martial. You can live another 10 or 8 years. Wang Lin spoke with a speechless expression, and her voice became soft and sticky. "I can't teach you. I'm just a weak woman of 2 or 8, and I've only been studying painting for 3 years. So, why don't you hire someone else, young master? 2 or 8 women. Did you learn painting for only 3 years? Aren't you the most talented woman in the world before, big sister?" Lin Ke was dumbfounded. "Do you want to fail in apprenticeship?" He thought for a moment and said, "Senior, do you know why I have to compete with Qi Yi?" "Because Qi Yi once said in public," he said. Lin Ke stopped at this moment to look at Wang Lin. Wang Lin raised an eyebrow in her right eye and asked, "What did he say?" Lin Ke exhaled as if he had decided to announce a major event. He adjusted his emotions and quickly entered the stage of acting, then angrily said. Qi Yi said, "If you're a lowly person, you should stay in the lower 9th class. If you're a lowly person, you should have a lowly position. If you're a lowly person, you should be lowly. Because Lin Ke is also a lowly person, I want to prove it to him, so I want to challenge him." Immediately, Lin Ke showed a sad expression and looked at Wang Lin, saying, "Since the senior doesn't want it, I'll leave first. I'll go find out if anyone else is willing to teach me." Wang Lin stared calmly at Lin Ke. Watching Lin Ke's figure turn around and release his fist, he chuckled softly and asked, "Hee hee. Are you provoking me?" "Perhaps." Lin Ke didn't turn back, let alone stop. The voice was filled with 3 parts anger, 3 parts regret, 3 parts regret, and a faint hint of disappointment. At the same time, as he walked, he silently recited in his heart. 10, 9, 8, 7 but his speed did not change, and he still seemed to walk very heavily towards the door. "Damn it, stop me, you apprentice. I'll take it. Come to me at noon every day and I'll teach you. Teach Qi Yi a good lesson during the competition." Wang Lin's voice sounded, but it didn't seem like she was being provoked by the method of provocation. Instead, it was like an old cow unwilling to give up on the tender grass that had already reached its mouth. At the same time, it feels like another actor. But Lin Ke didn't care so much. He quickly turned around and walked quickly to appear in front of Wang Lin, clasping his hands and bowing. "To Lin Ke, pay respects to master." "Cut, it's a pity that you don't go to the theater troupe." Wang Lin took a step back, put her hands on her back, and slightly raised her chin to accept the bow. "But indeed, that kid Qi Yi seems to be someone who can say such things. Yeah. Lin Ke nodded and stood up again, saying to Wang Lin. Master, could you change the time? Before I came just now, I made an appointment with Guli Chungang Tofu shop to go to his place to study at noon. What can Mr. Li teach you? Wang Lin raised her eyebrows and said, making tofu. He's an ordinary tofu maker. What can he do besides making tofu? Li Chungang is actually a commoner, craftsman. Isn't he a great scholar? Confucianism, reverence. Sure enough, these experts like to hide and hide. It's not like that. Mr. Li Chungang has a few books over there that I want to go and read. Lin Ke didn't say much, just casually explained to Wang Lin. Reading. Are you still literate? Wang Lin looked at Lin Ke like she cherished a species and said, although everyone on this street is lowly, we can unite very well with each other. If it weren't for Daoyun bringing you here, do you think I would let you in? But being able to read is pretty good. Alright, let's just follow your instructions for the time. Wang Lin waved her hand. Lin Ke was about to thank and praise Master Wang Lin for his generosity, beauty, and kindness when he heard her continue to speak. She stood up and rubbed her hands in an extremely lewd manner, like a green-headed fly. Her face, as beautiful as a fairy, revealed a hint of human ugliness. Come on, let me show you your chest muscles. No, let me show you how your muscles and bones are and whether they are suitable for painting. I can tell you, this is very important. The best thing is to take off your clothes and pants. Sometimes when drawing, you have to stand, and as a teacher, you need to check your feet. No, your legs are not right either. It's at the base of your legs. Come and go, as a teacher, you will use the ancestral bone touching technique. Lin Ke. __ winky face. This woman doesn't even let her apprentice go. Just as he looked around and didn't know what to do, a shout came from outside. Is Sister Wang Lin around? A female voice sounded, and for Lin Ke, the sound was as pleasant as a heavenly melody. This lifetime of shouting is like a life-saving straw to Lin Ke now. Staying with Wang Lin is too torturous. Then Lin Ke saw a woman in red slowly walking in at the door, staring blankly. The customer has finished, soon. Wang Lin smiled at the other side and responded, I'm here. Sister Bing Bing, come in quickly, I'm here. Lin Ke also looked towards the door and saw the woman known as Bing Bing approaching, only then did he see her face clearly. The woman's face was painted with rouge and light makeup, with red phoenix eyes, willow leaf eyebrows, and a light red floral pearl attached to her eyebrows. Her features are neat and delicate, and she is wearing a white veil and a bright red undershirt. A pretty traditional antique woman. Lin Ke couldn't help but take a second glance. It's just about throwing away the makeup bonus, which is more than enough to surpass Wang Lin. A gust of wind blew from the door, and Lin Ke closed his eyes and sniffed it lightly. Surprisingly, nausea. It's not perfume, it's the stink of Chaoyang Street. Bending down, Lin Ke saw Wang Lin slowly lowering her right hand in the remaining light. I instantly understood what was going on. It must be Wang Lin who saw through her own thoughts and deliberately brought in the scent from the outside street. Lin Ke stood up awkwardly and calmly smiled at the two of them. The woman named Bing Bing first looked at the wooden door behind Lin Ke's small black room after entering, and then occasionally looked at the base of Lin Ke's thigh. It seems to be pondering Wang Lin's line, customers are fast. Lin Ke saw that the girl looked at him in the wrong way and lowered his head to follow her gaze, instantly realizing. In an instant, his face turned green and he said, Wang Lin, your grandfather, is he ruining my reputation? End of this chapter.